It's a critical part of AI, but it's a sector no one's talking about right now. Here to share more on why this sector is so important for AI is Keith Kaplan with TradeSmith. Keith, always so great to have you on. You are really wonderful at coming up with different areas of technology to let our viewers know about and some of the stocks that are really up and coming and playing such a key role in this new tech development. So thanks for being here and bringing this list. I know you're going to share 4 names in this new field of nanotechnology. So talk about what it is first. What is nanotechnology and why is it important?
Nanotechnology, it involves engineering at the scale of 1/1000th of a meter. And that's what a nanometer is, which is tiny. Imagine if we compared the size of a marble to Earth. That is the level of scale that we're talking about here. AI models like ChatGPT, they run on chips with circuits that are finer than a human hair. Without nanotech, there's no AI boom. None at all. And nanotech has been this sleeper that no one's really talking about. Nvidia's chips, for example, they pack billions of transistors, each of them with 10 to 20 atoms wide. And this is built in ultra clean factories, which is a key to this technology. The semiconductor industry, it's fueled by AI. It's projected to reach $1 trillion this year. And that is all dependent on nanotech.
And nanotech is a term I haven't really heard of much in this discussion around AI, but is it new? How long has this actually been around?
It's actually not new. It gained recognition back in the late 50s, 1950s, that is, and it was around before then. And it was because of this lecture on atomic manipulation. And by the 80s, microscopes allowed us to see atoms. And now machines, and this is wild, machines can print circuits that are atom wide, very, very tiny, and they do this using extreme processes. And there's a bunch of applications to this as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that when we're talking about nanotechnology. And again, you're going to give us the 4 stocks that you are looking at in this field. But what is nanotechnology actually used for, and what role does it play in AI?
The first and most important use of it is really around AI and semiconductors. So nanotechnology enables chips with massive transistor counts for faster processing in data centers and devices. Nvidia's AI chips, they have up to 336 billion transistors on one chip. Self-driving cars use this, large language models use this, and so forth. But that's not the way we were introduced to nanotechnology. Really, we were introduced to it with medicine. Nanoparticles, they deliver drugs very precisely. You've heard of targeted chemotherapy, and that's been sort of all the rage over the past couple of years because we're not killing people's complete immune systems to target cancer anymore. The FDA has already approved over 24 nanodrugs. And there's also these nanoscale biosensors that are detecting early diseases like Alzheimer's or heart disease. So when you think about that and you think about what it's doing, it's been around for quite some time, but now we're able to get a lot of scale with it because of AI and because of these semiconductors. It's also part of energy. We need nanomaterials to improve batteries and solar cells so that we can get a much better efficiency. Electric vehicles, the range was up to 80 miles at first, and now you're getting up to 500 miles of range. And that's because of nanomaterials. And then the last thing is this engineering at the molecule level. This can create durable functional surfaces. This market alone for surfaces is headed to $30 billion by 2030. So think of self-cleaning coatings for smartphone screens. Think of antibacterial nanosurfaces on medical implants to prevent infections in the body. Lightweight nanocomposites for automotive parts. The application of nanotech is going very, very wide, but the biggest and most scalable use of it is semiconductors. That's the most important use too.
So fascinating. And you just talked about so many different use cases. The demand for this sector really makes a lot of sense. But obviously, that AI sector is the biggest growth story in every industry. So that makes sense here, too. Before we get to the names, again, we're going right to it. Talking about the growth story, you just mentioned a lot of different areas where demand could be coming from for this field. Do we expect that demand to taper off at all, or is it just kind of getting started? What do you see these stocks doing long term?
That's a great question. Most people, when they think of these big trends that they first hear about for the first time, they think that it's a short-term play, but nanotechnology is absolutely a long-term powerhouse investment. This is not a quick flip. The explosive demand for cutting-edge chips, which is fueled by AI's exponential growth, autonomous vehicles revolutionizing transport, robotics automating the world and factories, precision medicine transforming healthcare. This is a multi-decade megatrend. And this megatrend will not fade. You will see volatility because that's what us retail investors and institutional investors do to stocks. But especially when you think of semiconductors, you'll see that sort of ride this wave of money flows in and out. And there's going to be a lot of volatility, but the price of entry is worth it for outsized rewards in this trend.
Yeah, the price of entry is a little steep on some of these, but these are interesting names that are right in this field of nanotechnology. I know you and your team at TradeSmith have been doing a deep dive looking into these nanotechnology stocks. You have a report of 10 nanotechnology names that are really taking up, not just in the short term, but in the long term. If you want to take a look at that report, you can scan the QR code or click the link in the description, or we'll also have that in the comments for you if you want to look at that later. That list has 10 names on it. Today, you are going to be sharing 4 names with our viewers. So I'm excited to get to that first stock. What's the first company you're looking at in nanotechnology?
We went with 4 names for this video because we have sort of 4 layers of this, what we call the supply chain stack for nanotechnology. And the first layer is what's called the lithography layer. And the first stock is ASML Holding. I'm sure you're aware of this stock and have probably heard of it before, Bridget.
Yeah, this has been on the show before, but more around that semiconductor discussion.
Absolutely. So ASML is up over 100% in the last year. It's a $500 billion company, so it's a big company. But the key to them and what they're most important for, which people don't know about, is they are the sole provider of what's called extreme ultraviolet lithography machines. And these are used to create transistors that are 2 to 3 nanometers wide. Each machine actually weighs as much as 2 Boeing 737s. They cost over $300 million, and it takes 6 months to assemble these machines. But they are essential for printing these thin, very thin layers of silicon wafers on all advanced AI chips. I'm telling you, they have what I look at as a monopoly-like position in infrastructure.
That is so fascinating that these machines cost that much. What kind of demand can there be for such expensive, really intense hardware?
There's incredible demand because they are responsible for Nvidia's chips, AMD's chips, and so forth. And there's all of these applications out there, robotics, autonomous vehicles, data centers. So they are in such high demand right now to be able to print all of these layers for these chips because they have this monopoly.
Yeah, I imagine there's a backlog and all sorts of things. This is similar discussions that we see in the AI story quite often. And I think you can see that in the stock price. This one has really had an incredible year, like you said. I think sometimes investors look at that, they look at the price of the stock, they look at how much it's gone up and question, is there still room to grow with this name?
Absolutely, 100%. I believe ASML is going to keep rising and keep rising because AI is not going anywhere. Just look at what everybody's doing out there, especially Elon Musk with robotics. This company is going to be around. Nobody's catching up to them.
Yeah, the monopoly factor of that one is really interesting. All right, so you said you have 4 areas to talk about nanotechnology. This one was the first. What's the next area?
So the next layer is now the fabrication layer. This is building chips, and they really say it's as one atomic floor at a time. So my stock here is Applied Materials. AMAT is the ticker. They are up over 100% in the last year. This is another big company. It's about $300 billion market cap. What they do is they make the actual machines that deposit the ultra-thin films on chips layer by layer. So they're not printing the layers, but they're actually depositing these layers and putting them together because on a chip, there's over 100 layers, and each of them are tenths of a nanometer thick. So they're probably the largest semiconductor equipment maker right now with about $27 billion of annual revenue, and they're supplying all of the major chip makers.
Yeah, this seems like almost like a manufacturing part of AI and infrastructure. This is something that's needed in any facility that's going to be producing and manufacturing chips. I imagine that's not just a US story. Is this a global company?
Absolutely. This is a global story, and that's why they're so big, and that's why they have so much of a backlog and they're doing so much business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense for this one. Well, another good name and another huge growth story ahead. I think same question before we move on to the third one. It's just about with that much growth, when you've seen an AI related stock go up over 100% in 1 year, again, some investors have a pause on that. What's your take on investing in companies like this that are having a lot of momentum already?
Yeah, they have a nice moat. I think that's a very good take for investors. They don't really have the monopoly, but they are the largest semiconductor equipment maker right now. And when you think about that, they're going to be the one that's in the most demand. They're going to innovate the quickest with all of the chips that they have to produce. So they're going to be innovating the quickest and they're going to keep this moat, I believe, for quite some time. So I think this stock still has a lot of room to run, even though it's a 300 billion market cap.
Yeah, already a big company, but an interesting name to look at in this nanotechnology field. Let's move on to the third layer.
You got it. So we're creating these thin silicon layers, we're putting them together, but we have to do them with really high quality control and not let any sort of damaging environment into them. So this next layer is what we call the inspection and materials layer. This is really the quality control layer, and it's at the edge of what's physically measurable. So the company that I've picked for this is Entegris. Their ticker is ENTG, and they're up about 100% since their low last May. They got clobbered with all of the tariff tantrum type companies. They're almost a $20 billion company, so they're about a tenth the size of Applied Materials. And they provide ultra pure chemicals, gases, and filters for chip making. The thing you have to keep in mind is when you think about drinking water, okay, the purity that you need for chip making is about 50,000 times stricter of an environment than the type of water you drink. And this is the key for advanced 2 nanometer processes with the exotic materials that have to be used to create chips. Their growth is just tied to this increasing complexity in semiconductor materials. I don't know how somebody wakes up one day and says, I want to create a company that has the sterile environment to produce chips. But that's what this company is doing, and that's why I like them so much.
Yeah, that's such a good way to put it. Who wakes up and decides to do something that is this hard? It's a very difficult thing to do, but this company seems to be doing it very, very well. It's also a newer name. This isn't a name that has come up much in the AI discussion, so I think that's exciting for investors to see a different name out there in this discussion. What about this company sets it apart from competitors? Are there other competitors in this space?
You know, I'm sure they're competitors, but they're actually hard to find. And I think because it's such a complex type of thing that they have to do, this quality control, that they're one of the only ones out there that have made it big enough for these other companies that are producing these chips to want to use them. So I haven't heard of many in this type of field doing that. We have a couple in a report. We have a very small company in a report that looks like they're due for a rebound. But this is a good sized company doing this work right now.
And if you want to take a look at that report, again, we have that for you for the viewers of this video. You can scan the QR code or click the link we have in the description to get that full report and take a look at some of the other stocks on this list. We have one more stock to talk about with this video today, and this is a familiar name, but I am curious to hear how it ties into nanotechnology.
Absolutely. This is a very well-known name, and this last layer is where we put it all together. This is the compute and application layer. So this company, which we all know is Taiwan Semiconductor, TSM. You know, it's hard to pick this company to bring onto your show because I'm sure that a lot of people have talked about it before, but they've probably never talked about it in terms of nanotechnology. And they're the people who bring everything together that we talked about today. The layers you print, getting the layers onto a chip, but actually producing the physical chips, all of the advanced chips out there. They produce about 90% of the most advanced chips for people like Apple, Nvidia, AMD. They generated $88 billion of revenue last year. They produce the smallest chips, and these chips are critical for AI, data centers, autonomous vehicles, smartphones, and so forth. I believe they're practically a monopoly right now. Nvidia can't produce without them. Apple can't produce without them. Samsung probably can't produce without them, and so forth. So if you think about their client list, this is everybody who's in major demand. When you think about data centers growing, you need Taiwan Semiconductor to be able to do that. When you have phones, autonomous vehicles, robots, TSM, that's the ticker that puts it all together for you.
And there's so much investment happening in this company. We've talked about it on the show before, but it's been a few months. And I think that the last time we talked about it, the biggest factor was how much investment they're putting into bringing some of those manufacturing facilities to the US. Any updates to share on that? I know they have such a huge presence in Arizona. Where else are we seeing those investments in TSM?
That is a great question. So they have already invested about $165 billion in the US, and their focus mainly is North Phoenix in Arizona. I haven't heard of them expanding anywhere else, but they're expanding their campus that's already in Phoenix, Arizona, and they're doing a whole lot of work. They're targeting to finish between this year and 2028, depending on how much they expand. I have not heard them moving elsewhere in the US, but the fact that they've put $165 billion into the US is incredible. And I believe that's going to help them stay on the radar and be able to build as many chips as possible for the big guys.
Clearly a very busy company. Thank you for these names today, Keith. All of these companies are going to need power for their plants and their manufacturing facilities and to keep that AI story going. If you want to check out the latest video we have on really investing in energy and the stocks that are going to benefit from powering the whole AI infrastructure build out, make sure to watch this video that just posted last week.